So thank you all for coming. Hello from my side as well. As Liz mentioned, I'm Alexandra. I'm the analytics developer of Holini. And today I will present a very exciting topic, especially for B2B companies. And we are going to talk about offline conversions. So before we begin, I would like to say that during the session, you are free to submit your questions in the chat. And I will make sure that I will save some time by the end of this presentation in order to answer all of them. In case something happens and we don't manage to answer all of your questions, I will reach out offline to each one of you. Also, by the end of the session, Arthur, say hi to Arthur, everyone, will share a feedback form which can let us know how we did. And of course, you can share some ideas about future topics. Fun fact, this specific workshop came from a feedback form, and people are asking for offline conversion. So here we are corresponding to your needs. And last but not least, in case you don't know, we have already done over 10 workshops, either for ads or analytics. So make sure you visit our website, search if you find anything that is responding your needs there, or stay tuned for the upcoming workshops. So about today's agenda. I thought to start a bit different here, so we will start with an inspiration about what we are trying to achieve. We will start with a success story, a case study from one of our clients to see what offline conversions can bring back as results. Then we will have an introduction about offline conversions, and we will help you define your key actions from your marketing funnel. Of course, we will have our live demonstration, and finally, we will dedicate some time for your questions. Also, one final note. Of course, we are talking about digital marketing here. We are going to use data during our setup. So we are going to discuss how you can manage consent to import offline conversions. Of course, this setup is one way that we figured out as Holini, but can vary based on industries or businesses. So before you make any changes in your own website or offline tracking measurement, please consult your legal department, because we're just analytics developers here. So about today's session, what you should expect and what you should not expect. First of all, I already told you I will try, and hopefully you will understand why offline conversions are essential for your business. In today's landscape, offline conversions are not an optional tactic. I would say that it is kind of important if you want to bring back the most out of your results. So I will try to convince you this way. Then I will try to show you how you can define your own measurement plan and identify your key actions on the funnel, either it is online or offline. And when we have everything in place, we will start working on our implementation setup. For this live demo, we chose Pipedrive as a CRM, and we will use Zapier to automate offline conversions. But during the process, I will point out some topics that can be applied in any CRM, in any method. What you should not expect. Of course, there are a lot of ways to import offline conversions and to use them. So it is kind of impossible to have an exhausting list here of all the options. And of course, it is not possible to also outline the perfect answer for each business vertical. In case this presentation didn't cover your needs, feel free to reach out to my email so we can discuss further your special case. But either way, this is not the last time you hear from us. I know for a fact that more exciting things are coming, so maybe next workshops can answer your needs. And that is done with the introductory slides, and we can start with the fun part. Let's start with a success story, and we are going to discuss how offline conversions actually helped our client cherry servers to bring back the results. So let's start with the challenge. The challenge was kind of easy in wording, like we wanted to boost new sales by improving performance of our Google Ads campaign. So what we did here. This is a special case because this client had already in place offline conversion measurement, but it didn't work right. So this is also an insight. You can have offline conversion tracking, but if you don't do it properly, then you cannot benefit from their results. So what we did here is that we corrected offline conversion tracking, and we implemented also consent mode version 2 to enhance tracking and, of course, respect users' consent. Regarding consent mode, we have a dedicated workshop in our website if you want to know more about this feature. Of course, offline conversion tracking cannot do the trick on its own, so we need the correct ad strategy here. So our ads team actually restructured the campaigns and ad groups, shifted from manual CPC to TCPA bidding, and they targeted untapped regions and demographics that we didn't before. Finally, we optimized budgets to high-performance campaigns, and the results was outstanding. What I mean by that, it was that we increased the signups by 53%, and at the same time, we lowered CPA by 51%. But the challenge and the desirable outcome here was very high, like we had 268% new client revenue growth. So you can understand that with the right measurement tactics and, of course, the right ad strategy, we can bring back amazing results. So hopefully I have gained your attention here because we need to understand what this feature can do for our results. So let's take it one step back and start discussing what is offline conversions and what are the benefits for our companies. Okay, marketing funnels, they're coming in different structures, but I really believe that this can be applied to many B2B businesses. So we have 4 basic steps here. We have awareness, we have consideration, intent, and decision. I will try to understand what is offline and online conversions. Okay, in the awareness part, we are mostly strangers with our customers. We are trying to bring out our brand name, and people should be aware of our services and products. So mainly in this part, we are working with our ads and the interactions with them. Then we have the consideration part. Here, our customers know what they're looking for, and they're searching for options. How we can identify this kind of customers are people that come into our website and consume key content. For example, they see our pricing pages, they download the file, or they read our FAQs, or even more engaged, they try to contact us either by starting a conversation in the chat, or they clicked in our contact details or submit a form in the contact form, sorry. Then we move on to the intent part. Here we have people that are actually know what they're looking for, and they are actively researching the option of our business. So the intent part can have registration for an account, can have people register for a workshop, or they can sign up for a trial, they can activate a trial if we have them available, or they can even request a demo for our product or service. If all goes well, then a new prospect, a new lead reaches out our CRM. So the funnel does not stop there. We have a whole process in the decision part where we have the lead hopefully qualified by our sales team. Then this lead can be of high likelihood to convert, which can be an opportunity. And fingers crossed, this could be our new customer. So what do we mean when we say offline conversions? The first three parts, like awareness, consideration, or intent, can happen online, can be tracked through online measurement platforms like Google Analytics or marketing platforms like Google Ads. And then we have the decision part, which usually happens offline in our CRM and in our sales process. So this is what we need because it is a very important part of our sales process. So why do we need it? We need it, but why? In my personal opinion, this is the most important slide of today's presentation. So I will try to explain why offline conversions are like essential and important, especially for B2B companies, and not an optional tactic just to gain a bit more insights. So we have two sides. We have the practical side where offline conversions can help you if you don't want to use Google Tag, let's say, for some reason. I do not recommend that, but I have to mention it. We have offline conversions if, for example, we don't want to use the conversion value that we have in our checkout process, and instead we do want to use a conversion value like our profit or anything else. And then we have the final practical reason, which is what we examine here today. We need offline conversion measurement if our true conversions are happening offline. Apart from the practical side, we have the strategy side. And I believe it's the most important part. So without offline conversions, you have no clear knowledge of your conversion rate and attribution. This means that you struggle to understand the full customer journey because, let's be honest, many B2B purchases involve research and discussions offline, like in-person meetings, calls, or proposals. So if you don't have this information available, then you can identify which digital touch points are truly driving conversions. So if you cannot have this information, then you're unable to optimize your campaigns for the highest return. Then if you don't have offline conversions, you are wasting your budget. This is honestly that you're flying blind here, so you don't have all the information. So even if you have good results online, you may miss out on the broader picture here. Ad platforms in general thrive on the data that you provide. So let's take one step back here and have an example. Let's say that you have 100 signups for a demo, but only 20 of them are actually becoming paying customers. Without offline conversions, your ads get optimized toward all 100 signups, both the 20 that convert and the 80 that they don't. This means that you might continue investing in channels that look effective, but aren't contributed to actual closed deals. So, on the other hand, you could overlook successful channels that, if you don't take them into account, you cannot bring back more paying customers. So this whole process can result in misallocated budget, lost revenue, and of course, a less effective marketing strategy. So with offline conversions, you can also bring more quality to your leads. Offline conversions can help you better understand which types of leads are most likely to convert. What kind of industries, what characteristic can identify a high value account. So in that, if you have this kind of information, you can fine-tune your targeting and your lead nurturing strategies. Hopefully, if you have all this information, you can have more qualified leads, and this can help you prioritize your sales efforts. Also, with offline conversions, you can enhance your cross-channel strategy and attribution models. So you can create more accurate attribution models that consider both your digital and your offline touchpoints. Then you can have better integration of all marketing channels, creating a clearer plan that makes the most on every step in the process. And last but not least, with offline conversions, you can close the loop. So you can track the final step in your customer journey, and this can enable you to calculate the true ROI of your digital campaigns. This can help you evaluate more effectively the full impact of your channels, of each channel, and eventually adjust spend and strategy accordingly to maximize returns. So now that we hopefully know why we are doing what we are proposing here, let's see how we can define our key actions, because we can say that offline conversions are essential and important for B2B companies, and not only, but what are these conversions and how we can define them in our own sales journey. Let's go back to our funnel: awareness, consideration, intent, and decision, and let's see what could be the indicators here for each path of the customer journey. We already said that we had the awareness. In this stage, we are mainly strangers with our potential customers, and we move on to identify the consideration part. In the consideration part, we have a lead that has identified their needs, and they are actively looking for options. Hopefully, if we respond to their needs, then we will have a marketing qualified lead. A marketing qualified lead is someone that's showing interest and engaged with our marketing efforts. This means that someone downloaded content from a website, registered for a webinar, activated free trial. We provided examples, of course, in the first slides. If all goes well and we have a lead from the intent phase, we will move on to the decision part, where a lead is registered in our CRM, and hopefully it is qualified to proceed to our sales pipeline. Then we will have an SQL, a sales qualified lead. And finally, an opportunity, someone that has the intent and it's authorized to proceed and become an actual paying customer. But let's be honest, you can teach me the seminar. You know better your own funnel about what it is, an MQL, an SQL, or everything. But what I wanted to focus here mainly is that we need to have a clear idea of what is a sales pipeline for our business, to have a clear steps that we follow in the decision part, because if we don't, this will lead to disorganized campaigns and unreliable results. This is a very important step to clean up before proceed with any implementations. The second part, of course, that we need to discuss here is about our measurement plan. We cannot start investing in ads if we don't have defined a measurement plan that will say if we succeeded or not. The root cause of failure in most digital marketing campaigns is not the lack of creativity in a banner ad. Usually, it's not even the people that are involved. Mainly, it is about the lack of a structured thinking about the real purpose of our efforts. A marketing plan can be a simple process, a structured process, which we can define in 5 simple steps. And this is what I'm going to show you today. First of all, before we begin any implementation, any plan, or any investment, we need to know the purpose of our website, of our campaign, or anything. We need to define our business objectives. Business objectives can actually, senior executives can help us with these objectives, and can be either to create awareness or to generate leads or to have new customers in our business. Then, when we know what we are trying to achieve, we need to define the strategies. Here, the executives can lead the discussion and can identify what will be the goals here. Can be to reinforce ads, or to capture leads, or to provide resources for people out there to know better our purpose in the business sector. When we have this, we need to measure the results, of course. So based on the objectives and based on the goals, we will define the metrics and the key performance indicators that will showcase how we did, if we succeeded, if we failed. We cannot start shooting implementations and events and conversions if we don't know what we are looking for. So the first two steps are very important in order to start to define what we are going to measure here. In this step, you will probably need a data person to help you identify the touch points on your website, in your offline sales pipeline, and maybe also provide you with insights based on analysis. This kind of information and KPIs can be brand traffic, can be newsletter subscriptions, a free trial activation, whatever is important for you based on the objectives of your business. If you want to take it one step further and know exactly what you are aiming to, you can define in these steps the actual targets. You can say specifically what number can mean success for your business, what increase can mean that you failed or succeeded based on your strategies. It is very important, and you can have a benchmark to evaluate your performance. Then, of course, you have to analyze data. You have to create segments, you have to create audiences based on people, behavior, outcomes that can help you understand why you succeeded or failed. This kind of audiences can be MQLs, SQLs, even the unqualified leads to identify spots that you can, red flags that you would know in an earlier step, or people that are engaging based on traffic sources or key content on your website. So now, and only now, you can start talking about implementation, about your technological approach, because otherwise you wouldn't know what kind of tools, what kind of methods or features you should leverage in order to achieve your goals. As I mentioned earlier, you could start creating events and conversions and send offline information in your platforms, but if you don't have a clear view, then you cannot get the most out of the technology. This kind of integration will be connecting Pipedrive sales funnel to your GA4 or your HubSpot sales funnel, or even a simple implementation from Google Tag Manager capturing specific touch points from your website. So we have a winner here. We are ready. We have our clear sales pipeline in our CRM. We have defined our measurement plan, and we know what we are aiming for. And we have decided also in our technological approach. Now, and only now, we can go in the hands-on part. We can go from the plan to action. But before I go into the platforms, I would like to mention a few things, because I mentioned that we are going to use Zapier, but I'm not quite sure how many of you already used it or you know what it is. Zapier actually it's an automation tool. It has many integration with different tabs, like over 5,000 tabs, and it is possible that you will find your CRM there, or you can connect the data with marketing platforms like GA4 and Google Ads that we will see here today, or other platforms like Meta or Google Sheets. How it actually works, it is very simple and straightforward. We have a trigger, which might be a new lead that is registered in your CRM, and then we have an action. What we want this lead to generate, for example, send the information to marketing platforms. And why this kind of tools are important and useful? Because they automate data syncing and, of course, they reduce manual work. And most of the times, they reduce development work. So if you don't have the resources or you don't have developers, then this kind of tools can help you automate the process, have real-time reporting, and of course, you can improve your campaign optimization. One last slide before I go to the live demo, because today we are going to implement offline conversions. It is not very complicated in terms of understanding the setup, but there are multiple steps involved here. So I wanted to sum up a bit what we are going to do. And of course, we have created also for you a checklist, which you can get when we share with you the presentation. You can see in the right bottom corner, I have a link which will lead you to this checklist. And you can have it, you can make a copy and use it for your own implementation. So, step one, we need to capture necessary Google IDs. This is a step that it is mandatory for any implementation process, any CRM, whatever you want to do. If you want to import offline conversion to these marketing platforms, you need to capture Google IDs. What we are going to do here for Google Analytics 4, we are going to capture the client ID, which is the unique identifier of your visitor. And we are going to capture the session ID, which is the timestamp of the session. For Google Ads, we are going to capture the GCL ID, which is generated from your ad click if you have the auto tagging available. And we will capture also the expiry date of GCL ID because it lasts only for 90 days. You are going to see how we are going to use them and leverage them later on in the live demo, but keep this in mind that these IDs should be captured in any CRM and any implementation method. When we are going to capture this kind of IDs and we will store them in the local storage. Then here is where we are going to need, and this is the only part for this setup, we are going to need your developers. When we capture this kind of information from cookies, you need to save them and store them in your CRM every time a lead is registered, a new lead is registered. Again, this step is important for all CRMs or implementations. Then for the Zapier example, we are going to create the automations for GA4 and Google Ads. And of course, we trust the process, but we are going to verify it. We are going to generate a lead to see what is happening in your Zapier account and of course, your marketing platforms. So this is the introductory part, the theory part, and we are going to move on to the hands-on. If you just let me present. Give me one moment. And here we are. I hope that you can see my screen here with our checklist and our platforms. So I have a split screen, so I can use the checklist. I know the process, but as I mentioned, of course, it is a multiple-step process, so it will help me also showcase the demo here today. Let's start with our Google IDs. Here you will see that we have a link. You can store the Google IDs using JavaScript code and with the help of your developers. But to help you with the process, we created a GTM template to capture and store Google IDs to your local storage. When you get this presentation file, you will have this link available, which you can click, and you will be led here to download this file. I will not do it because I already downloaded it myself. So when you download it, you are going to need to import this template file to GTM. So let me start with this. You need to go to your GTM, client-side GTM, and go to the templates and create a new one. Here in this view, you should go here to the three dots and click import. You should find the TPL file that you downloaded and open it here. You can click save and you are all done. So I can take this away. So let's go and define and create our new tag. You can go and create a new tag configuration and find the template that we just imported to our GTM. Here we have several options. You will see that we have some checkboxes here. For the purposes of this example, we will need local storage to save our values in local storage and to get the GCL ID expiry date. In order to get information for our Google Analytics and Google Ads, client ID, session ID, and GCL ID, we are going to add rows here. We need tracker ID, and we need to select what kind of information we are going to store. Let's start with Google Analytics. If you go to your Google Analytics account here, you can go down to the admin section, data streams, select your data stream and find your measurement ID. You can copy here the measurement ID and paste it to your GTM. We are going to store client ID, click add, and we are ready with the client ID. We should do the same process for the session ID. For the GCL ID, what we need here is our Google Ads ID that I have saved. And we need to select the GCL ID option from the drop-down. Now we need to add a trigger. This is based on your own website setup and CMP platform. For our own purposes, we will use all pages and consent update, but the main outcome here is that you need this tag to be fired in every page load. So let me also name here our tag and save it. Let's preview it. Hopefully it will work. Let me also check here the steps that we did. And here we have our demo page for this workshop. Let's discuss a bit what we are doing here, and we are going to the cookie section and actually what information we are storing in the local storage. In this GA cookie, you will see that we have a client ID. In this cookie, which is GA and your measurement ID string, we have retrieved the session ID value. And for the purposes of Google Ads, okay, I don't have a GSL ID here. Let me also add it. And for the purposes of Google Ads, when we have a GSL ID available in our URL, then we retrieve the information of GSL ID from this cookie and the expiry date from this timestamp. So if we are lucky enough, our implementation process worked, and here we have our Google ID value that we created in order to store this kind of information to our local storage. So you will see that we have our client ID, we have the GSL ID value, we have its expiry date, and the session ID for our GA4 implementation. Okay. So now the step that will follow should be created by your developers. This is the second step that I presented earlier in our presentation. Actually, your developers need to take these values from the local storage and pass them into your CRM to every time a user reaches your pipeline. Of course, we already done it. This is not in scope for this workshop, how you're going to do this. And of course, it is based on your website, your CMS, and your setup in your CRM. So I will move to the third step and the Pipedrive. So we have captured the Google IDs from the website and the visit of our customer, a potential customer. We have stored them in local storage, and we retrieve this kind of information using JavaScript with the help of our developers. What we need to do here is that we need to find a place in our deals to store this kind of values. I will show again how this works in Pipedrive. Maybe other CRMs have other procedures, but the logic remains the same. So here we have our pipeline in Pipedrive. We have like a simple five-step pipeline. And what we want to do, I already have one. What we want to do is to create positions for this information here, our analytics session ID, analytics client ID, and our ads click ID and expiry date. So how we are going to create them is that you can go to your logo here and you can select company settings. Under the company overview, you will see that we have these data fields here. You can create all the custom data fields that you want for your setup and for the information that you want to store per deal. There are some predefined values, and you can create custom ones. Here, what we will need for today's example, as I already mentioned, is the Google Ads click ID expiry date, and I would suggest to use clear defined names so it is easy for everyone that they're using Pipedrive to understand what is happening here. So you can name your custom field. You can, if you want to group it under specific groups, you should select text. And last, we need this custom field to be available in the deal view. When you're done with this one, you have to repeat this process for all 4 of Google IDs that we have available here. So I've done this with the same settings for Google Ads click ID value, text available in the lead view, session ID, the same, text, lead view available, and finally our client ID field that has the same settings. So let's create a lead to see what happens here. So we have, let's name it workshop lead. Let's select and complete the demo form or the contact form or whatever means that a new lead will reach our pipeline, and test. Here we have the consent. I mentioned to you that consent is kind of mandatory nowadays regarding the data that we are going to send to platforms, either Google Analytics or Google Ads. In this case here, we have, in our case, two checkboxes. The first one is about our privacy policy, and then we have a second optional field where people can agree to share their PII, like email or other data, for marketing and promotional purposes. But of course, you should define with your legal departments what is enough for your industry, for your business, for this information to pass CRM and then pass them to marketing platforms. So we send the message, and this message reached our Pipedrive, our sales pipeline. And you will see here that I have our Google Ads ID, our GCL ID value, its expiry date, and for analytics, the session ID and the client ID. Of course, custom fields can be created for multiple reasons. You can see here that we have even a source path for the consent settings that I defined in our form. We have created custom fields for marketing consent and privacy consent, so we will know if people agree to use this kind of information to our marketing platforms. And we are going to use them actually to our setup in Zapier. So let's go back here and see what we have done. We have created our custom fields and we tested the process. Let's go to the next platform. Let's go to Zapier. So this is the Zapier environment, and what we are going to use today is to create Zaps, to create automations, to send information to Google Ads and GA4. Before we do it, we need to connect our platforms, our apps with Zapier. I have already connected mine, like Google Ads, Google Analytics, and Pipedrive, that we are going to use today for this live demo. But the process is fairly easy. You just click Add Connection, select the platform that you want to connect, and authorize it to be connected with Zapier. So everything is in place. We have authorized our apps here. A quick tip for authorizing apps and using this kind of tools like Zapier and Pipedrive, we recommend to use like emails that multiple people in your companies have access, like marketing at holini.com, and not personal accounts, because people might leave or people might have issues with their emails. So it is always preferable to use email accounts to register to this kind of tools that have access, multiple people have access in your company. So let's create our Zaps now. We can go either to Zaps or create one and go create a Zap. We will start with Google Ads right now, and then we will move forward to Google Analytics 4. For Google Ads, we will start with a trigger. What will trigger this Zap to do the procedure that we wanted to do? For the trigger, we are going to use Pipedrive, because the trigger will be that a lead was updated from one stage to another. For this event, we are going to use that a lead moved from the new lead to the SQL phase. So you will see that we have multiple trigger options available. But for this specific example, we are going to use updated deal states. We will continue. Then we will select which stage in our pipeline will initiate this ZAP. And we will select SQL and continue. Then we are prompted to test our ZAP, and then we will have an example of a deal that it is registered in our SQL phase stage, and it is my example, like Alexandra with my email, and we have information available here about the deal. Along with it, we have the client ID, the session ID, etc. And we can continue. So, next step. Before we send data to Google Ads, we need to consider some filters for it. So we will start with a filter. And here we are going to use our expiry date of GCLID. As I already mentioned, that this specific value, the GCLID value, lasts 90 days. So we want to use here the expiry date that we have, and we want this ZAP to be initiated when we have, let me just find it, when the date and time of the lead moved from one stage to the other was before our GCLID expiry date. Oh, sorry, here it is not this. Here we have the update time, and here we will use the expiry date. So what we're saying here, we're saying that if the lead that moved from the new lead to SQL phase has a GCLID that was before its expiry date, then we can move on. If it was after this date, then we will skip it and we will not proceed with any automations. This can clean up your ZAP history a bit, because otherwise you will have a lot of errors there. Apart from that, of course, we need the GCLID to be available. Otherwise, we don't have information to send back to Google Ads. And we want also to have available the expiry date. Exists. And we can continue. For the record that I chose, I don't have a GCLID, but we can continue, and this will work for other records that will move to the next stage. So we are going to move to the next action, and it is not time yet to go to the Google Ads. Here we need to consider a limitation of Google Ads API, and we will need to create a delay. We cannot send information that are created in the Pipedrive stages directly to Google Ads. Because of Google Ads limitations, we need to delay this conversion for 6 hours. So here we will define the delay for 6 hours, and we can continue. We can test the step. Of course, the delay is successfully configured, and then we can move on to the Google Ads part. Here we will define, we said here that we will get a Pipedrive updated deal states that has GCLID values, and these values are not expired. And after 6 hours after this deal was updated, please send the offline conversion to my Google Ads. Here you will be prompted to select also your account if you have multiple, and continue. We will use a demo account that I have prepared here. So you select the account and the managed account, and we need to use the identifier to select the identifier source. So for us, it will be Google Click ID, but with enhanced conversions and all the new features, you can use either email addresses or phone numbers, or if you have great values available for iOS and Mac devices, you can also use this kind of information. But for the purpose of this example, of course, I'm going to use Google Click ID. So let's also select the parameter that we have stored, the Google ID, which is the Google Ads ID value. If you have order ID, you can add it here for the duplication purposes. And now we need to configure consent. As I mentioned previously, we have consent values defined, but you need to see your own setup and your own legal terms, how you're going to use this. You see that here we have a warning that since March 6, it is mandatory for European countries to use these values if we want to leverage Google Ads audiences and conversions. So here you can use a static value like granted or denied, or you can use a custom. We are going to use a custom because we have created this kind of values, and we will use our marketing consent here and here. Okay, now you need to select your conversion action. I will select the workshop SQL that I have created previously in my Google Ads account, and this will be the conversion that will store the offline conversions for the SQL phase that we are doing. For the timestamp, now you need to use a predefined value from Zapier, which is this one. Of course, you can take it from the video and use it in your own setup. And then if you have value and currency, you can also put your parameters here. Continue. Test step. Of course, we didn't create an offline conversions because right now we don't have a GCLID value or expiry date available. But in the step that we are going to do and move the deals from one step to another, you will see how this can be triggered. So the step that I always forget is to name your Zap. So Google Ads workshop SQL. It is best to use a naming convention that will be easily understandable by everyone that is using a Zapier. So let's see what we have here. Zaps. We have created successfully our first Zap, which will hopefully send data from Pipedrive to Google Ads when one deal reaches the SQL phase. So let's see what is happening here. We have this workshop lead, which has GCLID value, it has expiry date, and everything that we need for this Zap to work. And we will move it to the SQL phase. So we can review our Zaps that are initiated from this Zap history. And you will see that actually our Zap is activated, and it is delayed because we had this filter about 6 hours to be delayed. So after 6 hours, you will see that we will have this success message. But the point now is that our Zap is initiated and it is successfully enabled here with this move from one step to the other. So let's move on to the Google Analytics app. Let me just mark the steps as done and move forward to Google Analytics. We will create a new app and we will start here. What we need again, we need a trigger. Pipedrive, we will use the same trigger for updated deal states. We select our account from Pipedrive, continue, and which states this should be SQL. We can test again the trigger, then this should bring back 2 results. Yes, it is the first one that we had already in place, and the second one that we created together, workshop lead, with all the values attached to it. So we move on to the next steps. For the Google Analytics, we are going to use the webhooks. You will see here that we have this badge here that webhooks are available for professional accounts. This means that you have to review the pricing pages of Zapier to evaluate the plan that suits most your needs. We will select the webhook, and we will select also a custom request for the action event and continue to configure our webhook. So here what we are going to do is we are going to use the measurement protocol idea of Google Analytics 4. For those of you who don't know exactly what measurement protocol is a method that is created for GA4 to send offline events from your server directly to GA4. But now we're going to use this, we're going to replicate this kind of technology through Zapier. For the method, we are going to use post. For the URL and all the other information, we can use the event builder that is available to anyone from Google, and we are going to generate everything that we need for this setup through this page. So we need our API secret for the measurement protocol to work. What is an API secret and where to find it? You can go here to your Google Analytics again, and you can select admin. In your data streams, the same steps as before, you can open your data stream, and here you will find the measurement protocol API secrets. When you click it, you can go to create, give a name, and create your API secret. You will see that we have here the secret value. Click to copy and paste it here. Also, we will need the measurement ID. You see here in this form that we have an asterisk for mandatory values. So we want the measurement ID, put it here, and we want also the client ID. For the client ID for now, to be honest, I will not put an actual value because we are going to replace it afterwards with our Pipedrive custom fields. So I will just use 1, 2, 3, a dummy value, and then we will move forward to the event name. You can use pre-made event names for industries, but I prefer usually to use custom events, and I will name it like workshop SQL. No, SQL. As I mentioned earlier, for okay, give me 1 second. We don't want this. We want session ID value, even though it is not mandatory. We want it to match offline we want it to match offline conversions to digital channels, and we will also need this. Which we will use 100 value. So here you see that we have some information ready for us to use. I will go back to Zapier, and what we need here is that we need a URL. How to generate this URL? We have a host here. We have our host here, and we have this post, which I will go and put it directly after our host. So you will have a URL that has googleanalytics.com domain and your API secret and measurement ID. Regarding the pass-through, we will select false for now, but this is also the predefined value. If you don't choose it, you see that it is not mandatory, then false will be the default value. And for the data, we are going to use the payload that we have here and paste it in this box. Give me 1 second to clean up a bit so it is easier for everyone to follow. And okay. So what we need to do now is we need to replace some values. First of all, we need to replace the client ID, and what we can do, delete the dummy one and go to the plus sign. So we are going to use Google Analytics client ID that we have generated, and we are going to replace also this value with the session ID. So every time a deal is moved for new lead stage to SQL stage, these values will be replaced with the actual ones from the new deal. We need also to add the headers. We will use content type that we have here, and the value will be application JSON. Continue. So here we have a preview and we can test it. We will click test. A request was sent to webhooks. Everything is fine. We click publish, and hopefully this will be the last step for the Zapier setup. Again, we want a name that can define what we are trying to do here, and we go back to our first page eventually. Okay. Again, going back to Zaps, we have GA4, we have Google Ads, and we have already triggered a Google Ads workshop SQL. So let me go back our deal and go to the SQL phase again. This should give it some time. should trigger a successful Zapier. Let me just refresh it. Yes. And we have a successful offline event sent to GA4 through this app. And if we are lucky enough, we will catch it also to a real-time view in GA4, Workshop SQL. I'm not quite sure if you observed anything strange here, but let me just close our tasks because the live demo came to the end. But what happened here is that I moved back the new deal and put it again in the SQL stage. This actually triggered a new Google Ads Workshop SQL ZAP conversion that we will send back to Google Ads platform after 6 hours. This is a case of duplication, and this can happen either from GA4 and Google Ads. You know already, I think, that a sales process can be messy, the steps and the deals can be moved forward and backwards based on discussions and maybe sometimes it might be by mistake. Instead of getting this lead, we will get this lead, and it gets a lot of mess. So I need to point out that you need to consider the duplications, you need to consider the missing steps and how you can define a proper setup for this kind of hiccups in your own sales pipeline, so you will have accurate results in your marketing platforms, because otherwise you will have misleading data, misleading conversions, and it will not work eventually for the marketing platform, for the marketing efforts. And now that we have done that, I will go back to my presentation. Okay. And let me move on. So Zapier is one option for your offline conversion measurement. There are multiple options that you can leverage if you want to move data from your CRM to marketing platforms. But the main steps should remain the same. Google ID is available in your CRM, and then you should send them along with the offline conversions to the marketing platforms. So for Google Ads, you can have either Zapier or any other automation tool. There are multiple available out there. You can import directly to Google Ads using the conversion import method. You can use the data manager and send in real-time data from your BigQuery, HubSpot, or Salesforce. There are some options there that you can consider. You can use Google Ads API directly, or you can use Google Tag Manager, the server-side setup, to send information from your CRM to your marketing platforms. For Google Analytics, the story is not very different. We have also, except from Zapier and automation tools, we have also data import, but this can lead to delays for your data, so we won't have real-time reporting at campaign optimization there. You will use GA4 measurement protocol directly, implement the solution to your CRM, and send data without any automation tool in between. You can use third-party data integration platforms like Segment, or again, you can use a server-side setup. By the end of the day, what I want you to keep in mind for these setups is these 6 points. Regarding the pre-work, it is very important to have a clearly defined measurement plan. And it is very important to clean your sales pipeline, to have defined steps along the way to translate each stage of your customer's journey. Regarding the setup, it is very important to delay your Google Ads offline conversions for 6 hours. Otherwise, it will get messy in your Zap histories with a lot of errors. And regarding GA4, you need to send also information about session ID. It is not a mandatory field, but it is very important if you want to stitch data together from the online session to the offline journey of each customer. And you will need to configure a setup for duplicates or missing steps based on your own sales pipeline and based on your own methods there. And last but not least, because we are sending data from our server, it doesn't mean that we don't need to configure consent. It is very important to send information to your marketing platforms based on the consent of your customers. So you need to advise your legal department. You need to know what your customers want from your business and what they want them to do with your data before proceed with any automations. And the key takeaway, if you use offline conversion tracking, then you will be able to close the loop, and this will lead you to smarter decisions, more effective campaigns, and hopefully and ultimately higher quality leads and increased revenue. And this was it regarding our content. I don't know if we have any questions. I don't see any questions. Correct me if I'm wrong. I see a lot of bots in the chat. Yes, Arthur?
There is one question from Sergeant, I think, at 10
yes, sorry. Yes, sorry. It was among the bots, so I couldn't find it. Thank you so much. Question about the case, how did you organize that offline tracking wasn't implemented correctly? It was, okay, this is a very deep dive question that maybe we can discuss it if you have a specific use case that you want to apply, but it had to do with GCLID values that we were sending, if they were old enough, if they were available for specific accounts. We had large volumes of offline conversions that couldn't upload to Google Ads every time. So it was multiple issues, but I think it was very specific to this client. If we have concerns about our setup, feel free to reach out and we can review it for you and see what we can do to optimize the results. So I hope I answered your question. I don't know, I can wait like 1 or 2 minutes. If you have something to share, of course, you can do it offline as well. So also I say that Arthur shared the GitHub link, the Google Tag Manager template that I shared with you. It will be available to download through the checklist, but also it is available in our GitHub page along with some other templates that we have created for you. And I see I have another question here. Maybe the audience will be interested to hear. What happens if you do not delay Google Ads for 6 hours? What happens if you don't set the session ID? I think I already mentioned it, but the 6 hours, it's about the limitation of Google Ads API. So if you don't set up the delay for it, you will be spammed in the Zap history with a lot of errors. And regarding the session ID, if we don't include it, even though it is not required by the measurement protocol setup, you will not be able to stitch information together. And by that, I mean that we have an online session and we have an offline event. For Google Analytics to stitch this session with the offline event together, we will need the session ID. So we will have available the channel and every other information about the user and the complete pipeline and the complete customer journey from online to offline stages. Okay, so if we don't have other questions, now Arthur will share the feedback form. Again, it is very important for us both to get better. If you have any feedback regarding today's workshop and if it was helpful, if you wanted more, and what exactly did you want it. But of course, it is very helpful and important if you have to share some ideas about your needs, what kind of workshops do you expect from us after, and we will try our best to meet your needs. So this was it. Thank you all so very much that you came today, and talk soon. We will wait for you to the next workshop. Bye-bye.